So we're going to carry on with another part of the Lucian today. We're on page 7 in the booklet. As you will already know, he's described the city in all its opulence, and he's described the people in the last paragraph, these kind of odd shades, a bit like souls wearing cobwebs that don't age after they've arrived. And he's going to describe the environment that they live in a bit more now. As you can see from the intro, he talks about no night, only one season, and the way that crops are produced on the Isle of the Blest as well. So let's kick off with that, shall we? We'll start at the beginning. Men ude nux parautois ginetai, ude hemera panu lampra. Men, I've given you a little note on in the commentary underneath the notes. Doesn't really mean anything if you take the two words individually. Men means something like not indeed. Usually it's translated as something like furthermore. Okay, so furthermore, and then you get ude nux parautois ginetai. The subject here is nux, so night, and the verb is ginetai down at the end of the phrase, which is an alternative form of gignomai, or gignetai as it would be here. So night becomes, and then parautois, again I've given you a little note on this, which means something along the lines of among them. Okay. This is para with the dative, so nux parautois ginetai means something like night becomes among them, but it's got this big negative right at the beginning of it, ude. So night does not become among them. Furthermore, night does not become among them. That's very clunky in English. So you might want to say something like, there is no night. So furthermore, there is no night for them might be an easier way of translating para autois, but as you prefer. Furthermore, there is no night for them. And then he builds on that with ude hemera panu lampra. Ude again, so you could take the two as a neither nor if you wanted to. I'm not sure that's completely necessary here, but neither is there any night for them, nor hemera, a day, panu lampra. Panu means something like altogether or entirely, and lampros means bright. So nor a day, or altogether bright. So furthermore, there is no night for them, or there is no night for them, nor a day especially bright. So he's describing a sort of situation where it's neither really day nor night. So kind of imagine sort of twilight style of effect, and that's what he's going to talk about next. Kathaper de to lukauges ere pros heor, medepo anatelantos heliu, toiuto fors epeche ten gen. So, Kathaper introduces a kind of simile, a sort of comparison, I suppose, meaning just as or like. So, just as to lukauges. To lukauges is the twilight. So, and you can put your de in if you like as well. So, and just as the twilight. And then it's an interesting little phrase here, ere pros heor. Ere, as you know, means something like already, and pros means sort of towards, so sort of already towards or already at. And then heor is the accusative form of the word for dawn, which is heors. So already at the dawn. So just as the twilight, already at the dawn. Again, it's difficult. This is a difficult passage in some senses because it doesn't translate very well directly. So you just need to be aware of that and just make your own translation flow a little bit. So, and just as the twilight, de pros, I'd probably translate as just before. And just as the twilight, just before the dawn, medepo anatelantos heliu. Little genitive absolute here. I'm sure you can see that with the antos ending and the heliu. Both are in the genitive. Anatelo, which is where anatelantos comes from, means to rise. So the stem change will tell you that that's in the aorist. So with the sun, heliu anatelantos, having risen, merdepo, not yet. So with the sun not yet having risen. So just like the twilight, just before the dawn, when the sun has not yet risen. Toiuto fors epeke ten gen. Toiutos, you should know, so such, something, just like, such. Toiuto fors, therefore, such a light. Fors is not a word you should know, but it's in the vocabulary for you. So such a light epeke. The word order here is quite nice, actually, because it's in kind of the same order as you would expect in English. Such a light epeke. Literally sort of hold on to. It's epi and then echo, isn't it? So, but to spread over might work here because we're talking about light and land. So Toyota for such a light epeke spreads over ten gen, the land, the earth. So he's describing an environment which is neither night nor day. This sort of continual twilight. Whether or not you find that appealing is kind of a matter of a personal taste, I suppose. It doesn't to me. It doesn't sound appealing to me, but that's the environment which we find ourselves in on the Isle of the Blest, neither day nor night. Kai mentoi, kai horan mian isasin, tu etus. So, kai mentoi, kai and mentoi, however. These kais, there's another one coming up with kai horan, which comes next, are going to be difficult. So you might want to go with something like also for them. However, also, the verb here is isasin, which is just here. This is from the irregular verb oida, which you're not supposed to know in full for GCSE, but that's the third person plural form, isasin. So also, however, isasin, they know, horan mian. Hora you'll conventionally know as an hour, but it can be used actually for any space of time. So here it refers to a season. So also, however, they know horan mian, horan a season, mian one. So it's the feminine form of heis mia hen, the number one. So, however, they also only know one season. And then to etus, which comes afterwards, is the genitive form of the word for a year. Again, that's given in the vocabulary for you. Top etos is a year, so two etus of the year. So, however, they also only know one season of the year. So it's neither day, it's neither night, and throughout the whole time you're there, you'll only experience one season. So it's kind of got a kind of constancy to it, which is quite nice. Ae gar parautois ear esti kai heis anemos pne parautois ho zephyros. Ae is it's an alternative form of ae, spelt differently, as you'll have seen. The pronunciation is almost the same. So just meaning always. So always gar for. So for always, parautois we've already had once. Among them. So with them. For always with them. Ar esti. It is spring. Ar is the spring. Kai heis anemos. So heis is the masculine form of the number one. So and one anemos. Anemos is a wind, and one wind. Nay, it's the verb to blow. You'll have seen in English words like pneumatic. So it's anything which is involving air, basically. So and one wind blows. Parautois, among them. And then this is in the nominative, so it's also agreeing with the wind. Ho zephyros, which is just the name Zephyr, really. There's a little note underneath the passage describing the winds and Zephyr. So I would just translate that as the Zephyr. You could, if you wanted to. No, I think I would just stick with the Zephyr. So I think that's fine. So let's start that sentence again. So for always among them it is spring, and one wind blows amongst them, the Zephyr. the reason for pulling out the zephyr is that we're kind of creating this atmosphere again of things being pleasant, things being nice. He worked very hard at the beginning of this piece to make us feel like the city was a sort of opulent, wealthy place. And now we're getting a sense that it's a kind of nice place to be as well. It's not just showy, but it's pleasant. So it's always spring. And then you get this mention of the zephyr as well. And the reason that he's picked on the zephyr particularly is that the zephyr is a wind which sort of heralds the spring. It's the west wind, so it's associated with fruitfulness. It's supposed to be pleasant and warm, and that's the sense that we're getting here. So it's only the one wind. It's the zephyr. For always among them it is spring, and one wind blows over them, the zephyr. Hedekora, pasi men anthesin, pasi de phutois hemerois, te kai skierois, teth elen. Right. So the subject is clear at the beginning. So it's Hedekora at the beginning, the land. And then you've got a couple of datas which follow this. So pasi men anthesin. So the land, and these are instrumentals. So the land with every flower, pasi anthesin. And then pasi de phutois, also in the dative. So with every plant. And I'm going to jump straight to the verb for the moment. We'll come back to these in the middle in just a second. The hemerois, tekai, skierois. So the land with every flower and with every plant, tethelen. Now, this is not a verb that you know. This is the verb thalor, which means to bloom or to thrive. And it's also in a tense which you don't know. It's the perfect tense. And you can see that with what's known as a reduplication on the front of it. So the verb is thalor, which you can see there in the thelen, but it's tethelen. The first consonant has doubled up. This is how the Greeks form the perfect tense. Again, I reiterate, you don't need to know this at GCSE, but you'll have seen it in Latin with verbs like curo. So curo, I run, but curere, to run, but in the perfect tense, kuri, it's doubled up at the beginning. It's the same principle in Greek as that. And if you put this verb to bloom or to thrive in the perfect tense, it really takes on this meaning to be abundant with, because they have bloomed, is the sense of it. So if the land has bloomed with these things, then now it must be abundant with them. Okay, so if we run that all together again up to this point. So Hedekora, the land, and then we'll take Tethelen straight away, has bloomed, is abundant with, therefore. So the land is abundant. Pasi men anthesin, with every flower, pasi de phutois, with every plant, and then you've got this description of the plants here. They are hemerois, te kai skierois. Hemerois means to be cultivated, so they are. The land is abundant with every flower and with every plant cultivated, and you've got te kai in the middle as well, so you might want to go for both cultivated and then kai skierois. And skieros means kind of shady or giving shade. So with every plant, both cultivated and giving shade. Cultivated plants are not cultivated ones you grow for food, for farming. So you're talking things like wheat and that sort of thing. They're not shady plants. So the skierois, the shadiness, is indicative of a kind of wild plant, a sort of natural growth rather than cultivated ones. Anyway, don't need to worry too much about that, but it might be worth just recapping that just to make sure that we're okay with it. So Hedekora, the land, pasi men anthesin, with every flower, pasi de phutois, with every plant, hemerois, both cultivated, kai skierois, and giving shade, tethelen, is abundant. Excellent. The real sort of boon for them comes next, really, with the amount of cultivated stuff or the amount of produce that the cultivated stuff gives off. Hai men gar ampeloi, dodecaphoroi esin, kai katamena hekaston carpophorusin. So, the high at the beginning is going with the ampeloi over here. which are feminine. You often find that plants in the ancient world are feminine, even if they look masculine, and that's exactly what's going on here. Ampelos, ampeloi. Anyway, ampeloi are grapevines. So for the grapevines, very simple verb, asin, just over here. They are, and they are described as dodecaphoroi. The more astute of you will have noticed that that's also a masculine adjective, and that's because it's a compound one, so it doesn't have any separate feminine forms, so you have to use a masculine one here, even though ampelos is feminine. Anyway, that's not something to worry about. So for the grapevines, they are asin dodecaphoroi, and if you break that word down, you can see the meaning starting to come out of it. Phoroi is to do with ferro, which means bearing or carrying. Deca is 10, and the door at the beginning is duo, which is 2. So they are 2, 10 bearing. It means it bears fruit 12 times a year. So for the grapevines, they are 12 times bearing. So you might just want to paraphrase that a little bit and say, for the grapevines, bear fruit 12 times a year. Kai kata mena hekaston Carpophorusin. So I'll say that again. Kai katamena hekaston. And obviously for kai, katamena. Kata has a slightly unusual usage here. It means something like in the period of. So you've seen kata being used with gen and thalasan, by land and by sea. So by the month, i.e. in the period of a month. Okay. And then hekaston, just to really ram it home, each month. So in the period of each month, carpophorusin, they bear fruit. I think that's all I really have to say on this. So I hope that makes things a little bit easier. Any questions, as always, let me know. Thanks very much.